Hey everybody, it's Angie from Trips with Angie again. I'm a travel agent that loves sharing my travels all over the world. I especially like cruises, all-inclusive resorts, and escorted tours. In this video, we're going to talk all about Vietnam. This is the fourth video in a 6-video series about my 6-week trip to Asia. So we've talked about Singapore, we've talked about my cruise on the Celebrity Millennium and the ports of call we saw there. Then we headed to Hanoi, Vietnam to join up with other travelers on a G Adventures tour of Vietnam. One of the first things we mastered in Hanoi was crossing the street. You just go. You don't change pace, you don't stop, and the traffic somehow moves around you. Here's the view from the rooftop deck of our hotel, the Golden Silk Boutique Hotel, which was in a terrific location. One of the first stops on our tour was the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. Ho Chi Minh was a national hero. This is where his body is kept. There's a changing of the guard every 2 hours. It is closed on Mondays and Fridays, and then the other days it's open in the mornings. This is the presidential palace. You can see the French influence in many of the government buildings. It's located on a beautiful complex with a big lake that was filled with fish, so Ho Chi Minh could go fishing. He didn't feel comfortable in the palace, so he had these smaller apartments built. We also went to the Hanoi Hilton. This was a formal prison during the war. You could see the sewer area where some of the prisoners were able to escape, kind of like Shawshank Redemption. And then there's a beautiful memorial to all those who had been killed in the war. Then we got on a cyclo. So right in front of us, it's that little bicycle where you sit in the seat and then you're going through traffic. It was a lot of fun. It went slower than I thought it was going to go. I was super nervous about it, but it was really neat to go around the lake and see all of the Lunar New Year decorations. We were there in January of 2025, so you can see a lot of people getting ready for professional photo shoots. These are photo shoots that they're going to share with people to celebrate the Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year took place at the end of January, so it was great being in Vietnam during this time to see all of the decorations and preparations. You don't actually want to go during the Lunar New Year because a lot of people go back to their families and things were closed. We were really impressed with the craft beer scene in Hanoi. There were a lot of great beer bars and craft breweries. One thing you must do is go on a food tour. So having a guide take us around to try all the interesting noodle dishes. We tried a bami sandwich. And then we also tried things we probably wouldn't have ordered. So this rice and coconut ice cream dish ended up being absolutely delicious and one of our favorites. We tried the pancake, as they like to call it. It was great watching them make it on the street as our guide explained to us kind of how it all comes together, how people traditionally eat it, and then even showed us how to eat it because it's a multi-step process where you kind of put all the ingredients together. We also tried the egg coffee where you mix a raw egg yolk in with coffee, a little bit of alcohol and sugar. It's absolutely delicious, and somehow the alcohol makes it safe. Train Street is a really popular location in the evening. It has a lot of great bars and restaurants. And then yes, a train does run down this track right next to everybody. Our tour included a stop in Mai Chau, and I am so glad it did. This is definitely a place I wouldn't have found on my own. We stayed at the Mai Chau Hideaway Resort. It was incredibly comfortable. It had these huge rooms, a great lodge and restaurant, and you cannot beat these views. It was absolutely gorgeous. It had a great little fog and mist that would settle in the mornings. You can see across the way the fishing boats coming over. We got to board one of those boats that ferry people back and forth and head out to a fish farm. So this is fish they're growing for both consumption and decoration. They basically have created these holding areas out in the lake, and they stay out here. They take care of the fish. So some fish are koi fish that will eventually make their way to ponds in different neighborhoods throughout Vietnam, and then other fish they're growing to eat. We took a walk through the villages, admiring all the fresh fruits and markets. This is an up-and-coming tourist area. They have incredible textiles that they weave right there in front of you. There's a lot of homestays available. That's the developing tourist market. You can eat at a local house. So this is what we did. This was the view from our lunch table, and they brought out this incredible meal. That's catfish in the middle. It was some of the best catfish I've ever had. And then in the evening, the lodge had this wonderful dancing show showcasing traditional dances from around the area. So these were the traditional Thai people from the northern area of Vietnam showcasing some of their dances. Then we headed to Halong Bay. So this was a place I had seen in National Geographic. I was so excited to come here. We pulled up to a very busy marina where we boarded a small junk boat to take us to the boat where we would be spending the night. This was a 1-night overnight cruise, and the boat was incredibly comfortable. I actually liked the cabin we had on this boat better than the one we had on the Croatia yacht cruise. It had a beautiful dining room area, a great upper deck, and you just could enjoy all of these gorgeous views with this monoliths coming up out of the water, that beautiful green water you've seen in all the pictures. And there's a lot to do in the bay. So we went to an oyster farm. This is where they produce pearls. There was also a beach you could go to, a cave you could explore. From the oyster farm, you could try kayaking. So you really could make a full 24 hours here with lots to do. But my favorite part was when we were sailing around, seeing the small fishing boats. We had incredible food on board. I loved all the carrot carving they did. I mean, this is gorgeous. And then, of course, you had that gorgeous sunset over Halong Bay. Now, one thing I hadn't thought about was what happens after dark. So this beautiful National Geographic area turns into a floating party. All of these boats have the lights on. There's people singing karaoke, including me. And then we got out the fishing poles and tried our hand at night fishing for squid. The next day we flew to Hue. So this was the home of the dynasty. This is where the Imperial Palace is located. We entered into the Citadel and started exploring the Citadel and the Forbidden City. The government has made a huge priority to restore these buildings. Many of them were damaged during the war. The Emperor Palace is absolutely gorgeous. They've done a tremendous job restoring it. You can see here how things had been damaged over the years, and they're working to bring them back to their past glory. We headed to a Buddhist temple for lunch, where we had an absolutely amazing vegan lunch prepared on site. It was incredible to see how they used mushrooms and tofu to get a lot of those strong umami flavors. Inside was beautiful with all of the golden Buddhas. At night in Hue, there's a beautiful bridge that lights up, kind of does like a little light show as the lights change. And then this is the party area. So this area turns into a huge party at night. You can see there's a transformer there in the middle. Up next is Hoi An. So this is a beautiful city right along the river that's become very popular for lantern making. You can see our lanterns here. I actually couldn't decide which pattern to use, so I used 4 different ones, but I think it looks great lit up. You definitely want to take a walk down by the waterfront. These little boats will take you out if you wanted to put out little lanterns or light candles. I love the mix of the old and new architecture as they built around the ancient city. We love the beer, so this is Seven Bridges Tap Room. Definitely take a visit there. Green Mango, we had a wonderful dinner. They had a multi-course tasting dinner based on what was fresh. So we had these great dumplings with the fried garlic on the top. I also love how they use the banana leaf here to offset this great salad made up of peanuts. My favorite part of the visit was the Oodles of Noodles noodle tour. So these are the 5 main noodles in the Hoi An area. We started the tour by going around to 3 different noodle stands and trying the noodles there. We also explored a local market to learn more about the fruits that are just available in that area. This had a really interesting brown noodle that was absolutely delicious. And then we came back and actually tried our hand at making some of the noodles. So this was a crispy rice cake we made. And then this is the noodles we made. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And then in the evening, we decided to go to the Hoi An Memory Show. This is part of a theme park area. And then they have this huge production where they go through the history of the Hoi An area. It's really quite impressive, the amount of people involved. The next day we went to the Mai Sun Sanctuary. It was about an hour and a half drive from Hoi An. You can see the Lunar New Year decorations are also available here. And then this was just a beautiful set of ancient temples that you can walk around. Some are still being excavated, so you could kind of see the work in progress. And you could walk around the ruins and explore. This area was picked because it was thought to be sacred. And then at the end, there was a show that you could watch through the cell phone of your fellow guests. Then it was time to head to Ho Chi Minh City. So this was the main big city. We started with a stop at the street food market, so we got to try more of the rice dishes. I was just feeling like rice that day, so I didn't get anything too fancy. We, of course, found a local brewery and tap room to enjoy down this great little alley. Definitely go down the alleys in Vietnam. You can find some great places there. And then we went to the War Remnants Museum. I think this is a very important museum to visit, but it is very difficult to go through because it outlines the war crimes by Americans against the Vietnamese people. Ho Chi Minh City was our last stop on this tour, so we took off for Hong Kong, and that's when our next video will pick up. I hope you're enjoying this series. Be sure to subscribe and follow this playlist.